it going? Do I see the record?
Yeah, I see the recording button.
Oh, there we go. It was
Yeah,
hiding up top. Perfect.
you got it.
All right, welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the legal website warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington. Welcome to another episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I am so excited to share with you today my new friend, Connie Whitman. Connie, so good to see you. For those of you listening, you'll get to hear Connie, but you can also pop over and visit our video if you're interested on my YouTube channel. So Connie is known for her high energy, passionate, and enthusiastic approach to teaching and coaching. She helps ambitious entrepreneurs, leaders, and sales teams build powerhouse organizations to achieve wildly outrageous goals. I love this already, Connie. An international speaker and influencer, Connie's inspired teaching and transformational tools and content ensures entrepreneurs and salespeople grow their revenue streams through enhanced internal and external communication skills while developing strong relationship-based cultures. Connie is the CEO of Whitman and Associates, LLC, for the past 2 decades and just launched her new book, ESP, Easy Sales Process, which we will definitely talk about. 7 Steps to Sales Success, providing a step-by-step guide using her signature 7-step process. She has helped thousands of business leaders and entrepreneurs grow their business to mid-6-figure incomes. As a radio show host, she is thrilled to share inspiring content on her weekly international podcast, Enlightenment of Change, as a free resource for professionals looking to fast-track their careers. Connie is also a mom to 2 college-age sons, an entrepreneur, a hockey mom, and radio host of Web Talk Radio. So awesome. Connie, I'm so happy to have you here again today. And
Thanks.
we were able to connect just a couple of weeks ago, and I loved the chance to get to hang out with you for a week. That was really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun to hang out with you too. So, and I think right off the bat, as soon as I found out what you did, we were in one of the chat rooms together working on our project that we had for the week. And I said to you, okay, so I'm going to put you on speed dial because I'm building all these things in my business. I need the legal help. So it was just like a natural connection. So I'm so excited to be here, Heather, with you today.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. So talk to me. I always love to hear, especially for entrepreneurs, where that journey started.
So it's interesting. I've been in financial sales for 38 years. When I say that, I always pause because I think, what?
I know you do not look old enough to be able to say that.
You are very kind. Thank you. I will take that as a compliment.
Yes.
But 38 years, that's a lot of experience that you gain. And then 20 years ago, what happened, I came out of college and I got all my licenses, my Series 7 licenses, my health, and I was also going for my MBA at night. And I worked for insurance for a few years. And I loved, it's funny what did I know? I was a kid. I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I thought, I had a friend who was doing insurance. I go, yeah, I'll do that too. Get the job. Sitting with people, I realized that because of my education, again, I had my undergraduate degree at Rutgers was also fine. I did finance and economics, and then I went on for my MBA. And I had so much finance experience, and then with the licensing and everything, and I would sit with people literally at their kitchen table, and I realized that people needed help with cash flow. People needed help understanding how to protect their assets, whether it's life insurance, what have you. And people had no idea how to save and plan for the future. So when I tell you I found where I belonged, I loved educating. And that, I think, was the beginning for me of helping and serving people, because I felt like I was so blessed and gifted with all of this knowledge to share. And then after about 5 years, I didn't love the insurance industry. It just didn't jive with my values. So banking in the late 80s, I'm dating myself, early 90s, we're getting into investments where they were trying to provide those alternative options to just CDs and whatnot. So I got a job in banking and I found where I loved. And then in the 90s, it became a merger mania. And I remember a bank bought us, and I won't say who it was. They were anti-customer service, and I'm all about the customer. So I had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old at the time. I came home and I said to my husband, can't work for this bank. So my husband, we're married 28 years this past January, said to me, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to get fired. And he's like, okay. We're still married. It's like, okay. And what do you want to do? And I said, I want to open my own business. Why he didn't run for the hills then? And that was 20 years ago. So that was a pivotal point for me. I'm a bit of a control freak, and that merger, and I had these babies at home, and I thought, wow, I cannot go through this every other year. Do you have a job? Do you not have a job? And they were I was a senior vice president. I had been there 13 years, so I had a 13-month package. So I'm a risk taker, but I'm a calculated risk taker. So having that safety net of 13 years, I said to my husband, I know I have such a huge network. I know I can make this work. Not sure what I'm doing, but I know I can make this work. And I also knew at that point, I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach people how to educate their customers so that it's a win-win where we're serving our client to the highest level, customer service, but also being able to make a living, keeping our businesses thriving or the company I'm working for thriving. It's got to be a win-win. But if we don't serve our customers, we're never going to get ahead. So to me, that's the essence of sales, how I've lived my whole sales career. And now I wanted to teach that because I felt there were some sleazy sales practices out there. It doesn't feel good. It feels icky. It feels icky for you. It feels icky for the customer. Well, why does it have to be that way? I've been successful serving from a place of love. Why would you want to even attempt to do it from this icky place, right? So I knew I had to get my message out there. And that's truly why I started my business 20 years ago.
Oh, there's so much that I love about your story. I mean, one, your work ethic, right? Getting an MBA in the evening, becoming a mom, having those early days of really working. And you and I didn't know this, we share, I also studied finance and economics in undergrad. And instead of going the MBA route, I went the legal route because I took a business law class, right? But I knew I wanted more business. I just didn't want the MBA. So anyways,
isn't that amazing?
Yes, it's the whole thing about looking backwards. You get to connect all the dots, right?
Yep, that's true.
Yes, and but your part, and I think people often see entrepreneurship as so risky, right? And there is risk. Let's be clear that there is risk in starting your own business. But here you had gone through a series of mergers and acquisitions with a company that you were working for, and similarly in my career. So when I left law school, I started my own legal practice, right? And I had friends who had jobs at big firms downtown. I'd interviewed there, but I had decided, not the path for me. Just even seeing the inside of the law firms and people with their closed doors and tight lips, like I felt like everybody's faces were stressed, and I was like, this is not it for me. But then even though the perceived security was there, they were getting a solid paycheck and blah, 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 within a few years, I watched some of those places totally fall apart where partners were leaving, the firm split in half, friends who had been there left, and some left law entirely. So it's interesting because whenever I talk with entrepreneurs and I ask, what is your big why? On my list, I see entrepreneurship as actually greater security than the alternative. You have no control as an employee.
Absolutely.
Right? So I love that you saw the same thing and that you thought like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I've got a network. And you actually saw that as the more secure path.
And it's interesting. That is such a good observation. And yes, I do believe I had more control because I work hard. And it's funny, I work 7 days a week. And when I say that to people, that is never a complaint. I love what I do. So to me, it's never work. And here's the other thing. I was able to take my kids to hockey practice. I've never missed a game. I could schedule if they had tournaments like in Lake Placid. We would go, on a Wednesday night and come home Sunday night. And I would work around my schedule. I just wouldn't schedule during that period of time with clients. And I had so much control, but I was able to not only build a business, but build a life, like a really good life, because I I wasn't privy to the whims of an organization, and I could work as hard as little as I want. I don't mind working hard. I learned that my dad came from Italy when he was about 20, I guess. And,
Mm-hmm.
the work ethic, if you work hard, good things happen. But why should I work hard for someone else and they could still pull the rug out from under me? I'd rather work hard for myself and have better control of my destiny, for my family, for myself. There were lean years, Heather. There were lean years sometimes, depending on what was happening in the economy. But you budget for that. You
Yeah.
plan for that. So,
Yeah.
for me, it's always about control.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a really important piece of this conversation for people to understand that when you do it well and you do have a great work ethic and I mean, obviously you learn and you apply things quickly. Like, let's not, mask the fact that the journey of entrepreneurship requires a lot, and it
A lot.
requires a lot of learning, a lot of implementation, a lot of trying things. But ultimately, your experience about being able to be there for your kids and create your own work schedule, even though you work hard and you were dedicated to your work, that piece is so important. I was raised by a dad who was an entrepreneur and also was available for our sports events, available for our big events as kids, even though he too was often gone or working or busy. He was there when it mattered, and being able to see that as a kid growing up, I mean, it's very, very meaningful, and is so much what entrepreneurship represented to me, even at the early choice of leaving law school and creating my own careers. I knew, like, someday I'm going to be a mom. I want to be in charge of my work. So,
Absolutely. I just want to comment. It's funny. My dad, the same thing. He was an entrepreneur. So he would come to I was very athletic in high school. So he would come to all of my games and my siblings' games. And then he would work at night. We'd go to bed and he'd go downstairs and he would do what he had to do. He's an engineer by trade. So I
mhm.
did the same thing. I would take him to hockey, come home, they'd go to bed, shower, and go to bed, and I'd work. I didn't mind because I wanted to be a mom. I chose to have children, and I wanted to be a mom
Mhm.
first, always. And the other thing I wanted to comment, and you have a son as well,
Mhm.
right? So you have the 7-year-old is a boy,
Yep.
and I have 2 boys. And it's funny, as they've aged, they'll sit, like, we'll meet someone or another couple or friend, parents of friends, and my kids will say to me, "Nobody works as hard as you, Mom. You are the hardest worker I know." But you baked, and I was very active in the school. I ran the school store. I came
Mm.
in every Monday with one of the teachers and we did a writing workshop. I would just book out my day for that hour and I'd go to the school, and then I'd come back to my office and work. And I'm happy with that because I want them to choose partners that will work with them. Like, my husband and I have a really good, like my husband said, "Go open your business. I have faith in you. It will be successful." We have to have a partner that trusts you. So I want them to learn that work ethic, yes, but you cannot do it alone. You have to choose a
Mm.
partner who's going to truly work side by side with you to create the life you desire, whatever that is for them. So that's an important thing as having boys, that they see that a woman could be a good mom and still have their career to make because it makes my soul filled because I'm doing what I love. And if I didn't
Mhm.
do that, I wouldn't have been as good a mom. And I know that too. And I don't think that's for everybody as well, Heather. I think some people need to be stay-at-home moms, and that's cool. Be honest with
Mhm.
yourself. I
Yep.
could not. I wouldn't have been as good a mom, and I know that.
I have a similar experience as you in that I know myself and I know that I have to have something else that keeps my brain occupied and
Absolutely.
engaged. Not that
Hmm.
motherhood doesn't. Motherhood, let's be clear that motherhood probably has been my biggest challenge. Like, it's
Absolutely.
highly engaging and I every day have new opportunities to take my skills to the next level, especially with a special needs son. Like, it is not about rewiring his brain. It's about rewiring my brain. And, so my husband and I have been on our own journey around that. But I love your point about modeling for your children what you want to be possible for them.
Mm-hmm.
their partnerships, and the fact that entrepreneurship played such a big role in that, right? They get to see you working hard and they get to see you showing up fully as a mom. And I think that there are a lot of women who are better moms because they are able to engage themselves in work and feel fulfilled in other ways. And like I have a sister who is a full-time mom. She's got 4 girls that are under the age of 7.
Bless her.
Right? I know. I'm like, I have 2 and I feel like I have 5 kids. I'm like, how do you do it? So she's amazing and she's brilliant. And I tell people like that theirs is the only household right now in the midst of COVID that has had a better teaching experience at home than anybody could have ever provided those kids at school.
Awesome.
She's a teacher, yeah.
It's awesome.
So she's phenomenal. But I think it is really important for us to know our own path and to know ourselves. And on that point, what do you think distinguishes entrepreneurs, people who choose entrepreneurship? Because I love this conversation and hearing from other entrepreneurs what they think is the driver for that. Is it a personality thing? Is it that some people, whether they feel like they're a fit for it or not, the risk is just worth it? Like in your experience, what do you find with entrepreneurs?
So it's interesting because obviously most of my career, I've dealt with business owners from a financial standpoint. Right now, as a business owner, most of my clients are businesses, right? So I don't really go and I don't do investments for people anymore. That wasn't part of my long-term journey, right? So I go and I teach. So it's interesting because, and I don't know if you're going to share a link or not, but I have a free communication style assessment, and I could share that link with you and your listeners.
Yep, I'd be happy to.
So we all, at birth, we are all wired like our blood type with a certain distinct behavioral, and they call it behavioral style. Some are fast paced, take control. Others are more passive and will follow. They'll be good worker bees. None are good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. So number one, you have to know who you are. Yep. So in my experience, yes, there is typically a certain behavioral style for people to become business owners or entrepreneurs. They're that type A personality you've heard about. My title on my communication style assessment that I created, again, is a free resource for people.
I love that. And just so for people listening, you will find that gift as well as some other contact information for Connie. And I think you had, so that is the link for the gift. People can find that at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. So be sure to check that out. I'm going to go check it out.
Yes, it's excellent. So example would be a CEO mentality or a business owner mentality. They're innovative organizers. They have so much innovation in them, but they're organized enough to get things done. And then you have somebody who's more of a heartfelt advocate. See just how beautiful that sounds. They lead with their heart. They give. They're loyal. They're probably going to be more of the support team for the business owner versus taking the risk of opening a business. Heartfelt advocates don't love change, so they're more fear-driven than, I got this, I could do this, right? That courageous kind of persona. Again, not right or wrong, good or bad. When we understand who we are, there's superpowers with that we bring to the table. There's also blind spots. So me, I'm a stimulating motivator. That's my highest. I want everyone to thrive and succeed. And I'm there. I'm your cheerleader, and I will teach you until you get it, right? That's my stimulating. That's who I am. I have high energy. I talk fast. I move fast. My secondary, which they fight a little bit, is my innovative organizer, and that's the CEO. So I love you. We can do this. Let's get to work now. Totally. Now, heartfelt advocate, if that's an employee of mine or someone I'm working with, I could never behave that way with them. I would have to handle them with a little bit more of love, a little bit more of kinder handling, white glove treatment kind of thing. I need to make them feel valued. Where somebody like you, Heather, I'd be like, what do we need to do? Let's get down to it. And you're like, all right, boom, boom, boom. We would fire. We'd move forward. Here's our blind spot. we don't see detail all the time because we're moving and innovating and creating, that I need people around me. And another style that is very low for me is a precise assessor. Those people who think they can do research and show you how to apply the research. I say, oh, put pins in my eyes. You're killing me. I think you have a little precise assessor. That's the legal. You like to research. Go ahead.
Well, in all the personality assessments that I've done, I show up typically in every category.
I believe that.
Yeah, I don't usually fit really neatly into one box because I'm a very fast, like I have a lot of activation energy. I'm a leader by nature. Like I will stand up and say things that other people wouldn't say, especially if it's in defense of people, right?
Yes.
So one example is in college. It's really interesting. I was raised Mormon, got out of Mormonism, but then ended up in Utah for college. Utah State University is like jumping from the frying pan into the fire, right? But while I was there, I was actually going through the LSAT prep course that was put on by two of our university professors that taught, I don't know, philosophy or something else. Anyways, one of them made a joke about gays in the class in Spanish, but I understood it, and I just sat there and I couldn't, like the rest of the class, I couldn't concentrate. And I was just looking around like at everybody in the class, like feeling so uncomfortable, the weight of that comment in a public institution. And I literally couldn't do anything else until I had gone home, written him a letter directly that just said, like, this is a public university. You don't get to say things like this. That was so hurtful. And I don't know if anybody in the class is gay, but that is a devastating thing to say. And you shouldn't be saying it. And I don't know how I worded it, but I typed it out on my little word processor and went and slipped it under his door.
Wonderful.
He never showed up to the class again, right? But anyways, yeah, the other professor ended up teaching the rest of that class. And I just said, but the way that I signed off the letters, I said, you're really lucky that I'm writing this letter to you and not to the university, right? I really wanted him to take responsibility for what he had said and change his behavior moving forward. But anyways, all of this is to say, like, I have a big heart. When you said heart-centered advocate, like, I first resonate with that when you describe the
heartfelt advocate. Mm-hmm.
Yes, in your assessments. But I am a quick action taker. I will jump into the front of something if I need to, and particularly on behalf of other people. And, like you, I want to control my work life. I want to control who I serve and how I do it. I am, and never have been, okay with somebody else telling me what to do.
Me either.
Right? So I relate to like every part that you've described. I'm like, oh, I really need to go take this test to see where it puts me. But
so it's cool. You have to take it and then send me the results. So here's the thing: you get the report, right, of your highest and your lowest, so you understand what your strength is and what your blind spot is. But it also gives you the intensity of the other one.
Got it. So it like ranks you.
Absolutely. So you're a combination of 5. Your combination might be the exact order of mine, but your intensity might be higher or lower on different ones. So it's the whole composite of really how we show up in the world. But think about that engagement that we just did. How powerful a tool is that to understand this is how I'm wired, this is what I need, right? But when I'm talking, and for me, when I'm talking to my clients and teaching them sales so that they can serve their client, I have to understand who I am. They have to understand who they are. I also need to understand who's in front of me and how do I need to communicate to them for them to think, she gets me. She hears everything I say. So if I'm dealing with someone who's more of a precise assessor, they need more detail. I have to get in the weeds with them. That's not natural for me, but you have to shift and modify because that's what they need. And because I have this tool, they deserve that from me, right? Yeah. So that's kind of that communication style assessment and the power behind it.
No, I love that. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day that if you've ever been in relationship with somebody who speaks a different love language, right? I think
Yes,
there's a book like the four
there is.
love
Yeah.
languages or the whatever five, I can't remember.
Love that. Love that too.
Yes, but if you've ever tried to give from your love language to somebody who doesn't live in that, like it's not received the same way.
Nope.
It's not received even in the way that you give it, even when that comes from a really genuine place. And, my husband and I think sometimes we have slightly different love languages, but, he'll be saying to me, but I did this, or he'll like have something that he really wanted me to receive it just like was missed on me. Right. And I think it's the same thing when you're talking in a sales conversation with somebody who really has a different primary language or primary strengths. The power of understanding who they are and how to really connect with them so that they understand that you understand them is like pure gold. It's very, very powerful. So tell me, how did you get focused on sales? How did sales become your thing?
I think, and it goes back to what I said when I sat at the first time I sat with a client and they needed me, they needed my knowledge. Let me rephrase that. And because I was raised with very high ethics and integrity, my values, right? So were very high. So when I sat with these people, I treated them as if it was a family member, right? So how can I help them? How can I educate them? And it was funny. I was young. I mean, I was 23, I think, when I started. So, again, going to school at night, working like a crazy person. But in 5 years, most times in that type of position, you have to make what's called cold calls. Literally, you buy lists and you just make phone calls, right? You just dial for dollars. It was not fun. Good. I'll tell you, good skill to develop, to find your voice and have people engage with that, right? Without video, without visuals, body language. But what I found in 5 years, when I left insurance, I was living off referrals and here's an interesting thing too. When I got this job in insurance, there were 4 in our office, our particular sales office, it was 43 men and me. I was the only female. That was a fascinating experience because they would come over like, "Hi, little lady." And I'd be like, do I rip their face off now? Like, How dare you talk to me that way? But I was raised to be respectful. So I would always be cordial and respectful. In my head, there was a bubble over my head thinking you're an idiot. But, I didn't say it out loud, of course. And in 5 years, I was living off of referrals. And most of these men, after 10 years, were still making cold calls. And they were like, "How did you do that?" And what's funny? I was like, I don't know. Later on, when I thought about it, because when I went into my clients, they felt that I really cared about them, that they would say, "Oh, you need to talk to my sister. My neighbor next door, they're changing jobs. They don't know what to do with their 401k. Oh my God, I have this friend." My favorite story, I'll be brief with this. Locally, I'm close to the Jersey Shore. And there's this townhouse complex literally right on the beach in Seabright. And so I did a mailing. This dude responded, right? I go and I meet him, single man, a beautiful townhouse complex. And so I help him. And I had followed up with him a couple of times. And then he finally agreed to meet with me. So I walk in and he said, "You know why I let you in?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, please don't rape me. I don't know." Right? So what's going on? And he said, "You followed up with me 3 times in less than a year to see if I could save him money on his homeowners and auto policy. My insurance guy is good." He said, "but I haven't heard from him in 3 years." So I was intrigued and he had to meet me. So net, we do the insurance. I did my follow-up. Of course, I gave quality customer service. He was the president of the homeowners association for that complex. And I knew the bylaws to write the program and make sure everything, the coverage was proper and all of that. I took great care with that. I had almost everybody in that complex. Do you know how much, I made so much money off of that? And I would drive into the complex, and in the summer, have my sunroof down and, hi, Con. It was like a wild experience and it all because I followed up properly. You and I talked about follow-up, Missy, in our class, right? And here I got this abundance of business because I showed care, concern, and I was real in how I helped him. So it's just interesting. Again, me being me, but coming from a place of service has served me well, that business finds me, I'm knocking on wood, I'm very blessed.
Oh, I love that so much. And for anybody listening, like the power of learning sales, I've got a story that I want to share just for a minute, but it literally can change your life. I mean, it will change your business, but it can change your life. My sister went from being married with two young boys, like age 1 and maybe 3 or 4 when she got a divorce. Her husband had been cheating on her. There was, it was, and her work history was that like her previous jobs were, $10 an hour, $11 an hour. She was brilliant. She'd graduated from design and merchandise and textiles from Washington State University, but she didn't have the opportunity to work in that field. And so instead she was, working behind the Macy's counter and doing, some of their display work.
Nice.
Or I think she even helped like manage a Starbucks for a time, but her pay was not equivalent to really what she deserved. And so that was her work history. And suddenly she is going through a divorce. She has very little work history. She's a mom to 2 tiny little boys. And she somehow, and I think she knew deep down, I mean, who knows, again, how our dots connect when we're looking forward, right? Looking backwards, I mean, she did exactly what she needed to do to get where she is now. And her first job she took was learning sales. And it was for a point of sale. It was for a business that sells point of sale systems to other businesses. One of probably the toughest jobs she's ever done. Even the training part, I remember she cried every day. She had to go to California for 2 weeks, leave her little boys at home, with her ex-husband. And anyways, her journey as a single mom and trying to figure out and bridge that gap in her skills. I mean, she really spent probably about, a year and a half, 2 years learning sales. First with that, then through another position. And then finally, she ended up as a salesperson at Siemens, which is a medical device like,
Sure.
She's brilliant. She is so good at it. She now gets called into groups. Like they had somebody else in the company had a hospital that they really wanted to get into, but they had a whole flock of technicians who were really concerned about changing technology. And they'd written all these questions down and, but they were they were not a receptive audience. We'll put it that way. And the company knew, like, we have to get Ashley there on site meeting with them. And she's up in the Pacific Northwest. She had to fly down to Southern California or someplace. And she says that she walked into a group of about 20 technicians, and this is mammo techs, and they all were sitting there like this, like arms crossed, body language was so closed. And, faces were not open, receptive. They were not smiling. It was just like, okay, get this presentation over with, right?
Right. We're going to go through the motions.
Totally, and she sat there and she looked at their questions. She didn't know even what she was walking into. They just said, we need you to go meet with this team. And she looked at their questions. She read the people in the room and read their body language. And she just said, you know what? I love you guys. Look at these questions that you put down. Like, look how committed to your customer you are. Look at how much you guys care about your patients. Like, you did so much homework before you even met with me. Absolutely. And you put down your thoughts and like, whether you ever make a decision to change technology or whatever, I just want to honor you for being so committed to your patients that you would have this meeting and that you would put all the effort into these questions, right? Anyways, and even just doing that one thing, like, and it was because she's intuitive. She can read people, right? The room softened. Suddenly they were unclosing, like not folding their arms any longer. Like they could hear what she had to say. And anyways, the power of learning sales and being able to understand who's on the other end of the phone or who's sitting across from you and speak their language and acknowledge them in the way that they need to hear it. It's pure magic. I mean, everybody in business needs to learn this.
Sales is psychology when you think about it.
Yes.
It's at the end of what we do every day. Who am I serving? How can I best serve them? Am I the right person, tool, resource to help them? And if not, do I have someone that I can say, you know what, I'm not the person, I'm not the software, whatever it is, we're not the right ones for you. You really should look over here.
That's
I think they
right.
could really satisfy what your customers might need. See, but that's honest. And so to me, you see what we just described? I hope anybody that's listening, you understand sales is nothing more than an honest conversation, transparent and authentic and real. And,
Yes.
in my book, I think the first sentence is, if you're not selling from a place of love and with your heart, you're doing it wrong. And then I think in the next sentence, I say, I know you're all thinking, Connie, you're out of your minds. What does love have to do with sales? It has everything to do with sales. If you're coming from a place of care, that's how people want to be handled. And handled's not the right word, but that's how people want to interact, right? Engage with you, because they know they matter, not because you're thinking, how much money am I going to make from this deal? That's awful. To me, that is disgusting. That's a horrible way to sell.
That's right. Well, and sale, like the transition point for me, even in my own business. So law, yes, and also photography. When I graduated law school, I started two businesses. I started my legal practice, and I also was I live in both sides of my brain, and I'm very creative and I'm very analytical. And so for me, it was really just a way to keep the creativity alive. I ended up, being able to combine my creativity with what I do now. But for a time, my photography business was really the place to experiment with the sales conversation, right?
That's right.
And it was a really, really fun journey. But the importance of learning sales, the thing that really kind of flipped the switch for me from getting out of like, oh, sales is hard, it feels icky. I mean, I just bought like every book under the sun at the time on sales. I took a whole bunch of like online trainings about doing in-person sales, all this stuff. But it's really about sales is serving. Sales is showing up and like being of the highest value possible in that moment to somebody, whether the solution is you, or like you said, whether the solution is next door.
Absolutely.
Finding out their needs and then connecting them with the solution. And if you can do that, whether it's you or whether it's somebody else, like people will refer you business. They will remember you all day long over somebody else who just tried to sell them.
Absolutely. And I'd want to just comment, the one other big piece I find with businesses, with salespeople, with sales teams, their follow-up effort is lacking, and you're missing an opportunity. Because here's the thing, Heather, when we met, I said to you in passing, I'm building this website, I'm building a digital product, I'm creating this book, and I don't know what my exposure is because I go to corporate clients, right? And I have my contracts that were legally done. Now it's a whole nother dimension. So what is my legal exposure? I don't know, but I certainly want to protect myself and my assets. So I said to you in passing, I'm going to absolutely hire you. I need you to look at my things. You said, yeah. Now we see each other. We're connected, obviously, that we could follow up. You put me on your email list and all of those things. So many business owners and sales teams and salespeople, they don't. So, and Mustafa shared this, I share this statistic, but in our class where we had met, 48% of sales happen with the 5th to 12th contact with the client. So, and the unfortunate thing is 80% of salespeople and business owners don't follow up past the second time. And the first and second, I think it's like 3% of sales happen in the first to second encounter. So and here's the thing. Let's say you and I met right a few weeks ago, and I said to you, listen, I'm just starting. I'm not going to be ready for 6-8 months. And you never followed up with me, and someone else approached me with the same service. I'd be like, yeah, I need that. Good timing. Let's do it. You would have long been forgotten because you never thought to circle back with me. So people sometimes, they don't have the need now, but that might change in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. So you have to touch people and do diligent follow-up at least that 5 to 12 times. And here's the other thing. Everything is, look at COVID. Our world, the rug was pulled out. Our world was spun like a top, and it's like, see where you land, right? Like, whoopee, let's see what happens. Craziness happened, right?
Yeah.
And now if we are not following up with those clients, showing that we care, whatever your services are, shame on you, because people need to forget about that you're going to make money off them. They need to know that you care, you're worried about them, their families, and how can you help them during COVID or whatever the situation is. But life changes in an instant. So if we're not following up that 5 to 12 times, my rule of thumb is you should follow up at minimum quarterly with your clients, because life changes and new opportunities will come to you. And that's how you grow and scale your business to a large extent. They already trust you. You want them to keep buying from you, and you keep expanding your offer to serve them, today and 10 years from now, right? That's really the objective.
Well, and that consistency is so crucial. I was talking with a friend yesterday on my podcast about, he was saying he found it fascinating to observe who he hadn't heard from in a time, and how, suddenly they popped back into his inbox during COVID, like, hey, even if it was an outreach of like, hey, hope you're doing well, it was still came across as like, hey, remember me, especially in the downturn, because he hadn't been hearing from them prior to that point, right? And how many businesses found themselves in that spot of going into COVID and realizing we haven't done the outreach we've needed to, starting in the midst of a crisis and having that not be well received.
Absolutely. Because now you're doing what all the experts are saying, reach out to your clients. They're all home now, which was true. But if you've had me on Ignore for the past, my example with the gentleman in the townhouse association guy, he hadn't heard from his agent for 3 years. My clients faithfully, after we do whatever the business is, we get everything scheduled, set, organized. I follow up with them quarterly. And during COVID, I was following up with my clients like every 2 weeks. Is there anything I can do? Can we do a webinar? I just found this out. I think it's fascinating. Here's the article. Share it with your people. I got nothing out of it. I truly cared about their well-being and how I was hoping, were reaching out to their clients so that their clients knows, wow, they really care about me. It's not just about, I want to make money off you. It's very interesting how you had that conversation recently. Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, at the so my experience of COVID was that I was at an event the very end of February in San Diego. I was presenting, and I came home, like literally February 28th or something. And then we were essentially on lockdown the first week of March. I was a little ahead of the curve because I'd been watching the news, and I remember thinking, like, I was just at this event full of entrepreneurs. We are all going to be affected by what's coming our way, and nobody is talking about it, right? And we weren't even really talking about it on the news here in the U.S. Like, they'd been, upper levels in government had been watching this evolve for some time, knew it was coming, but it wasn't really on people's radar until like second, third, fourth week of March for some people. So it was like March 1st or 2nd, right? I'm pulling my kid out of school. I'm seeing the writing on the wall. Like, I'm starting to have discussions with people, and I was lined up to speak at like 3 more events in the next month and a half. I was canceling those and just saying, look, Seattle's becoming the epicenter in the U.S. We were where the first cases were starting.
Yes.
And I sent an email to my list. And the weird part is I remember having a lot of discomfort around sending it, because I'm like, people are not even thinking about this, and they may be annoyed that I'm putting it in their face, right? I mean, not in a rude way, but like, hey, you guys, but I sent out an email. That's right. And the subject line was, what COVID may mean for your business. But I spent probably an hour and a half drafting this email and saying, here's what I think you should be doing. Here's what I think you need to be considering. You need to be looking at some early financing options. You need to be looking at business insurance. You need to be, looking at other ways you can serve your same base of clients, maybe with things that you haven't offered before, And so I just wrote out a thoughtful email, but it felt like the least that I could do given what I was seeing coming our way. And that one email, actually over any other email I've ever sent, got the most like in-person responses. Like,
I bet.
Thank you for this. And I kind of was worried that it would be received the other way. Like, COVID, the sky is falling kind of a way.
Here's the thing though. You did it, that email, and the tone of the email and the vibration of that email was, I care, I love you guys, please, here's information I know in my heart might help you. please take, heed the warning, do with it as you may.
That's right.
I'm just here to help. I've got your back. That's what the tone of the email had to have been for them to respond, not, oh, the drama queen, here she goes again, the sky is falling.
No.
That's not how it was received, because you did it from this place of, holy smokes, peeps, we better really batten down the hatches and take a look at how can we protect our financial so we do sustain if this goes for a longer period of time. So that was, see, it's the tone. Everything we do has a vibration, has an energy behind it. And if you're coming from a place that's icky, the response is going to be icky. If you're coming from this high vibration of care, people are going to respond in the proper way. Just like the story with your sister, when she walked in and they were, what are you telling us? You can't tell us. We know better. And she heard them. She showed, wait, I don't know it all. This is care for your clients. Kudos to you guys for coming from this place. And now, can I help you? Great. If I can, I'm so glad you're doing what you need to do with what resources you already have. She validated them.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Right?
So talk to me about how you developed your quiz, right? The one that we're going to share. How did you create that?
So I have a partner. I have a second business that I started a few years ago. It's more spiritual based than business based. And that's another side of me, right? So yes, I love it. And we get to kind of dig in and help people with their beliefs and all of those things. So my partner, she's actually a therapist by trade, and she was like a dean in a university. So she's very academic. So she's Myers-Briggs licensed. Me in corporate, I am DISC, which is the William Marlston model from the early 1900s. And when we got together and we started sharing our experiences, and at the core, everything we do, I don't care who you are, what business you're in, you have to communicate effectively and you have to listen effectively, which we don't do as a society. But anyway, as we were talking, she didn't like Myers-Briggs, because she said you can cheat on the test, meaning cheat to yourself because you're not self-assessing with honesty. And because you come out with an EINJ, what does that mean? And I had the same issues with DISC. I said, people come into my classes, with my corporate clients, and they're like, I'm an ID. And I'm thinking, you're an SC. And then they would argue with me because they wanted to be an ID. I know you're not. But then I would go, okay, be what you want to be. I'm not losing sleep over this, right? So it made me crazy, though. I'm thinking, wow, they're never going to be able to apply any good skills because they're lying to themselves. The other thing, people would come, to my second, third classes, because I do series of classes with different clients and I do them quarterly. So they'd come back, 3 months later, and I'd say, what was your DISC? You're an SC. They're like, no, it wasn't an SC. I don't remember. What is an SC? What is an ID? What does it mean? So when Marianne, my partner, and I got together, we created a cheat-proof test, the assessment you'll all take. So instead of saying, I'm most like this, I'm least like this, we go through 5 different categories and you have to rank them 1 through 5. So you can't have in the pot of 5 questions, and we have statements, you can't put all ones. Oh, they're all like me. Nonsense. Which one is the most, second most, and you have to rank them. So we kind of handled the cheating piece. The second thing, well, you keep us honest, right?
Right.
And the other piece was like before, just me saying a heartfelt advocate. That immediately resonated with you. When I said I was a stimulating motivator, you burst out laughing and think, yeah, you're a stimulating motivator.
Totally.
You don't even know what that is because you don't have a report you're looking at. Yeah. We wanted to make the classifications of how we title them to be positive and empowering so people would embrace their style and say, I do have those superpowers. And on the flip side, be more open to say, my lowest for me as a precise assessor, I need to surround myself with technical people who will cover. I'm moving so fast, I can make big mistakes that could
You're
be costly.
A catalyst. Yeah.
But I need people to say, don't worry, all the crap you're leaving behind you, we're cleaning it up. We got your back. I need people like that in my life, but you have to acknowledge your blind spot. And I can't say, I'm good at that. I could do that myself. I know I can't. So you see, and then like innovative organizer, they're the CEOs. The other people who are inventors are a combination of observing designer. They're able to observe the world and then go in and redesign things to make us better. All of the scientists that are working on COVID, for example, there's probably a combination of this observing designer. They're able to research and look at data and observe things, as well as that precise assessor to really dig into the nitty gritty. They're my two lowest, by the way. So you see how, but see how nice they all sound?
That's
so
right.
People don't say, oh no, I'm not a D, I'm an A, because the D isn't a good person.
Right, or I'm not a judger, yes.
I'm not a judger, right? D's are
Yes.
judger. So by saying, empowering you with the title, so that was really the reason that we created, and we tested thousands of people because we wanted to make sure that it was scientifically proven, but also fun and also insightful, and also help people to embrace their true self so that they can work on their journey of becoming, who they are really meant to be. Warts and all, our flaws make us so beautiful too, but embrace that, right? Don't say, oh, that's not me. It is you. Deal with it, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And will you share with us a little bit about this other spiritual side and the work that you're doing there or have done there?
Sure. So my partner and I, we call that business, we've been in business about 3 years. We have some master classes, and it helps you kind of dig into the psyche of your beliefs, your limiting beliefs. And business owners, by the way, we all have limiting beliefs. The record player, I'm not good enough. We all have money issues. You all do, listening. Trust me, you do, right? And so we dig into the psychology end of things more than that business realm. And here's the thing, there's always a blend, right? I was teaching a class last week, and it was a sales class. And at lunch, we started talking about the universe and spirituality and your thoughts become reality and sharing experiences. It was a beautiful conversation. And then we were able to talk, well, how would your client feel if you came from this place of serving and love? You see what I mean? But that we really help people dig into the psychology of, let's figure out what your limiting beliefs are and how can we remedy them. So the business is called Wisdom Decoded. And we've been doing that for about 3 years, and we love it. She and I love working together. She's an observing designer. So again, she sees that very creative. Again, she's got a PhD in psychology. And I'm more of, no, we're not doing that now. You're putting too much on our plate because you think you have to change the whole world at once. And I'm like, band down the hatches, enough of this nonsense. So it's just really cool, the yin yang we have in the business, right? It's cute. It's very cute.
Oh, I love it. Well, I've always believed that the personal development journey and the entrepreneurial journey are the one and the same.
They're meshed.
They're meshed. They're like a rope with, the twine that interweaves. And so I think it's so important for people to understand both sides of that, because often when we're feeling stumped in our business, it's actually something that we need to resolve over here on our personal mindset side.
Exactly.
There's
right.
no escaping it. Yes. And so I like to talk really openly about both sides of that coin.
And I do as well. And it's funny because even in my corporate clients, we're talking about the universe and, what your brain is saying. And, and they'll say something negative and I'll stop and I'll say, wow, why did you just say that? And it could be something random about a customer and they'll go, I don't know. I go, let's examine that. That's not healthy. And, you laugh about it, but you get them to think, where did that thought come from? Because your customers are feeling that energy. Very dangerous. And it's funny, on the Wisdom Decoded, we also published a book. It's available on Amazon and on our website.
And I'm happy to share these links. If you want me to share these links,
Yeah.
I'd love to drop them in the show notes.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a book. It's called Communication Techniques to Help You Present, Persuade, and Win. And it breaks down all of the behavioral styles. So heartfelt advocate, here are your superpowers, here are your blind spots. And here we give 10 activities for each style to strengthen your superpower, to make, really leverage them, and how to minimize. I'm aware of my blind spots. How do I minimize? Who do I need to hire on my team? And we give 10 exercises. It's a short little book. It's like a workbook that goes with the short report you get from the free communication style assessment. So it's all cool. It's cheap. The book is short, it's cheap, but it's another good tool. It's another good tool for peeps.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, I'd be really happy to drop that link in.
Love it.
Anybody listening, be sure to check out the show notes. They are available at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Connie, this has been so fun. I feel like I could just keep talking and talking with you.
Me too. I loved it.
Any final thoughts for our listeners? Anything that you want them to end on?
I really, really, when it comes to sales, please think it's nothing more than a conversation. And July 16th is my book launch. If I could do a little plug, we're selling the book for $1 on July 16th. So money should never be and that for me was important to do, because I don't want people to say I don't have the $15 or $20 from a learning standpoint. Yeah. So for $1, and I take you through the 7 steps that you need to master. And it's easier than you think to create that really dynamic, engaged conversation with your customer. And I'm telling you, you won't get objections. Your follow-up will be you'll be a pit bull with follow-up with respect. I call it CPR follow-up, consistent, persistent, respectful follow-up. And it goes through. So the book will be $1 on July 16th. I really hope everybody purchases it and uses it.
I love that. Well, and be sure to add me to your list, because I'd be happy to mail out to my list as well.
Oh, I'd love that.
Your book. Yes. Yeah, so
thank you so much.
List. Yeah.
Promise I'll do that. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, Connie, thank you so much for spending such a great time with us today and sharing all your brilliance. I love this conversation. I personally believe that sales is one of the most important things that we have to learn, period.
Yeah. Even if you're in a position in an organization, you have to sell yourself for promotions and other things. It goes down to you have to communicate effectively to clearly articulate your ideas, your service, whatever it is. Sales is communication.
That's right. In life.
At the bottom. Yeah, in life. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, awesome.
Thank you so much.
So grateful to connect with you. We will be in touch soon.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.